are you guys doing here? Go away! I'm grafting cannabis onto coffee. The Lifetime Achievement Award. After 30 years, finally, I've got the Lifetime Achievement Award. It's been a long road, it hasn't been easy.
It's not you.
It's not me. Well, who is it then?
Chris Dillon!
I first met Chris when I shifted to Wellington in the early 90s, and at the time he, along with Maggie, was running Reds. And my recollection was more often than not Chris was on the till and Maggie was on the coffee machine, but I could have that wrong.
I wasn't born when they started it, but I think they just wanted to get in the hospitality business, and Mum was kind of the front woman of Reds, named after her big red hair.
I met Chris right from the beginning. Chris approached me and said, I want to go into roasting. So I sold him that roaster that started him off. We're going way, way, way back.
It was a really interesting time because there'd been the stock market crash, but it didn't really kick in Wellington till the Ruth Richardson beneficiary cuts in '91. And all the fine dining just went. You know, Reds was there and Coffee Supreme right at the beginning of the resurgence.
Being involved in one of sort of what were, I guess, the sort of primarily the three Wellington coffee companies with Lafare, Havana and Supreme, you know, although, you know, Havana's not really that relevant anymore, is it?
A huge impact, especially in Wellington, along with Jeff and Jeff. I feel like in the early 90s, they kind of really helped birth the coffee industry.
What Chris has done is managed to maintain a position at the forefront of the coffee industry, not only in Wellington, but now in New Zealand and even more recently, some of the things they're doing internationally. It's as relevant today as it was in Wellington 20 years ago.
Chris has always been an incredibly quality-focused guy, and I think that was one thing that was fantastic about those early days of the coffee scene in New Zealand. It was so quality-focused, and it goes back to all those sort of pioneers. Chris, I think, was an absolute linchpin in that. You know, he's a fastidious guy, and I think that really comes through.
There's a lot of respect for Chris in what he has created as a brand and the culture and the people within Coffee Supreme. I think that he set a really high standard for the rest of the industry, and no doubt that's reflected in the level of competition and the level of excellence that you see across the board in the New Zealand coffee landscape.
You'd have to wonder if there would be a coffee industry if Chris Dillon didn't start when he started and what he started.
So I think the biggest impact he's had is that he and a few other very key people gathered and formed an association to protect what was flourishing in this country. I feel like saying Chris is a visionary, it feels a bit corny, but I think Chris has the ability, perhaps it's because he's so tall, to see into the future.
Chris, while in theory we were competitors, was incredibly open and supportive of me, and I really look on him as probably the greatest mentor that I've had within the coffee industry.
I think he's just he really trusts his people. Like he really likes the people he's had working for him, and he just says, like, you just go ahead and do what you think is best, and they bring so many different ideas to the table. If he was doing it all himself, it would get stodgy.
He's great at spotting talent, I think. You know, it takes a lot for an owner to pass a torch on.
Chris seems quite comfortable to sit in the background, and that's unusual, certainly from some of the other Wellington coffee companies.
Chris Dillon, where the hell have you been, man? What have these hipsters done to your coffee company? Is there still coffee in the factory? Get back here, man. Get back here and sort these boys and girls out.
He talks about travelling the South Island with a grinder under one arm and a bag of Supreme under the other, and first cleaning people's coffee machines and then selling them Supreme and letting them taste Supreme, and then saying, wow, this tastes amazing. That to me is something he's definitely impacted. He was a stickler for maintenance, cleanliness, quality control, doing it properly.
On my first day, Chris Dillon, I was employed as a technician. Chris Dillon came out with me to make sure that I was the right person to put in front of his precious customers. So he came on 3 technical jobs with me, sat across the cafe and watched how I interacted with the customers.
We use Supreme at Brooklyn Cafe and Grill. We use Supreme at Clark's in Wellington and Clark's in Palmerston North. We've used Supreme at Floriditas, and of course we've used Supreme here. So that's a 27, 28-year-old stint. Chris, of course, has been always really approachable as a customer and always willing to help and give guidance. The service and the training that Supreme has always provided, a really good sense of being looked after.
For me, Chris was always, is what I would call the gentleman of the coffee industry. He's quietly in the background, nodding. When you ask him a question, he'll probably turn the question back at you and ask you that question. He's very quiet and calm in his approach, and he ponders what he's going to say.
You know, I always think of Chris as this very articulate, very well spoken, very carefully spoken person, and then
He says that we're not here to fuck spiders, and I have no idea what that means.
yeah, it's not all just business time.
If someone had said to me, 10 or 15 years ago that Chris was right into slot cars and would travel internationally to race them, I never would have believed them.
As competitive as you can be, really. At our slot car club on a Thursday night, it was basically Chris, always winning. You know, I didn't know he raced cars, like, internationally. And he'd be going off to I'm like, where did that come from? There's also the national stuff. Again, he was normally first or second in the national races, and he's been to the World Championships, I think probably 4 or 5 times now.
He builds all the cars himself, and then he, of course, has been champion, and it's been a huge recreational release for Chris.
He types like a praying mantis.
With 2 fingers, like this.
I think he still thinks he's typing on a typewriter. He's just like, boosh, boosh, boosh. It's like, I'm like, who's he emailing so angrily?
He's referred to at Supreme as Monty Burns.
So here's actually a photo of Chris Dillon here, looking like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. So for anyone that's young here in this room that's sort of below 40, you've probably never seen Chris Dillon either. He's probably wearing the same shirt today.
Considered.
Approachable.
Very articulate.
Full of integrity.
Intelligent.
Completely honest.
Meticulous.
Well, he's professional, he's ethical, and he's just a quiet, behind-the-scenes personality.
Charismatic.
Fair.
Down to earth.
Sincere.
Patient.
Passionate about what he does.
And kind. He's a kind man. Oh, can I add dorky in there as well?
Just one of the rocks of this industry.
I think his behaviour generally is quite odd. He's a strange man. Sorry, Chris.
Oh, he is a sweetie though.
And was there enough shade in there?
3 adjectives, okay.
3 adjectives. Thanks for that.
Oh God, an adjective.
I don't know if this is an adjective.
He's like the BFG, so I'm not sure what the word is for that.
He has very good sneaker collection. Is that a descriptor? Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Introverted. That's a noun. Okay. Introverted. Is that an adjective?
How do you know about these sneakers? Like he's still in the fashion loop.
Gosh, I don't know. There's so many words. It's hard to choose.
Just remind me what an adjective is. Describes a noun.
Yeah, he's a bit of a snake in the grass.
Do not play that part. Of course, he's a pro. We're always rolling.